You ever feel like that dog in that meme that's sitting in the living room where everything's on fire and the dog says this is fine?
Are you asking your brother that rants about
Well, you
hibernate
wouldn't feel that way.
every day if I don't feel like that dog watching I feel like the spectator watching everyone else behave like that dog.
There you go. That's probably a better way to say it. But I know that this one will matter a lot more. And hopefully, those people who have not taken heed of this moment will understand by viewing this through your lens. So allow me to paint the picture, and then I want you to go from there. And just for our listeners, I want you to understand that Q can speak for me here because we both have children in the elementary school system, public school system in Arizona, in Phoenix, at the moment. So, yeah, let me paint the picture. This is from AZ Central. Rhonda Cagle is the person who wrote this article, and it is an opinion piece. So I'm going to read her words. So that's why it's important to say her name. All right, she goes, imagine it with me. You're a student attending elementary school in South Phoenix. Walking to school on your second day, you feel the butterflies in your belly from the excitement of a new school year. You're holding your mom's hand as you walk down the sidewalk, looking down proudly at the new tennis shoes you are wearing. Suddenly, a cluster of brown and black work boots surround you and your mom. You look up quickly, seeing masked men encircling you both. The happy butterflies instantly take flight, replaced with what feels like bricks in your stomach. The heaviness turning to outright terror as your mom's hand is wrenched away from yours by the masked men who are forcing your mom's hand behind her back. We no longer have to imagine what this feels like for children. It happened on August 5th, just outside an elementary school in Roosevelt School District in South Phoenix. Quote, community members reported observing two individuals being detained by ICE directly in front of one of our school fence lines, unquote, the district said in a news release. The release goes on to say, one of the agents involved in the incident was observed escorting a student to the property's entry gate, unquote. Welcome to the 2025-26 school year in Trump's America. This school year is brought to you by the letter K for kidnapping parents in front of schools as their children watch, by the letter D for due process, of which there is none in this current climate of racial profiling and intimidation, by the letters G and T, no, not the drink, although it's certainly warranted, but generational trauma, of which our youngest students are now learning right in front of their own schools, and by the letter C for complicity on the part of voters who elected the tyrant-in-chief and a complicit Republican Congress that is doing nothing to protect the people they are supposed to serve. Quote, this is a traumatic event for the community, unquote. Marisol Garcia, president of the Arizona Education Association, said in a video about the incident. He goes on to say, this is a traumatic event for that student. This is a traumatic event moving forward to how students may feel safe at school, unquote. It's a trauma Arizona knows all too well from the Senate Bill 1070, Show Me Your Papers days of 2010. Teens who lived through those dark days experienced real and lasting fallout academically, socially, and emotionally. Many of them are now parents of today's young children. Under current immigration practices, these families seem destined to relive the fears of those SB 1070 days, only on a much larger scale. Okay, that's the end of the article. Before you go, Q, I just want to say that Q and I both were radio personalities in 2010, and we both covered very closely on our programming and on our social media SB 1070 and how traumatic it was, particularly for people who were visibly Hispanic. And our families include people, but they don't need to include people who are Hispanic in order for us to have empathy and feel like human beings shouldn't treat other human beings in this way. And for folks that are not in Arizona, you cannot know how traumatic that was for the people on the ground here. And I just want to say that really matters in the context of this story, in this city, and everything else I'm sure that, Q is going to cover. So, the floor is yours.
The most difficult thing, or some of the most difficult things that I've had to deal with regards to this story and stories like it all across the country, is people assuming that the only reason it matters to me is because my children are Hispanic. People assuming that, worse than that, I was being dramatic or gaslighting me, like I was being brainwashed by fear mongering left wing media. People that I know that I expected to trust my judgment, trust my word, and understand that I'm a bit more informed than most regular people. So it's been terrifying and frustrating and insulting and like all these different emotions like mixed into one. Because I didn't have to have Black and Hispanic children to know that this was gross and illegal and mean spirited and evil. I'm just a human being who understands that there's a way to do things and that they provide more grace for armed white men while they're shooting people than they do for a Hispanic mother walking her children to school. Mm. And again, this is not me being dramatic or hyperbolic. This is literal. They arrest white mass shooters with grace, make sure they're okay, take them to get food, create a pre-narrative for them. They just been misunderstood and they were just having a bad day and they've been dealing with so much. These are people who not only do we know they're committing a crime, these are people, they're committing the crime while being arrested. I'm not talking about pursued and found at their home later. On the scene of the crime, arrested, pursued, and detained and treated with grace and empathy. And then the media that covers them tells their story and humanizes them and wants us to give them some benefit of the doubt. Because again, they might have just been having a bad day or been bullied as a kid. And, just let's look into the reasons why this young man chose this path after he's unalived a handful of people. Before the worker who's been here for 30 years and not broken a law ever and contributed tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars to the community that they live in, not being able to benefit from those tax dollars because they're not citizens in some cases, who contribute to their communities in ways that they never get credit for. And have to continue to know when they leave the house that might be the last time they see their families, not because they've done anything wrong. And not just because the federal government is putting forth white supremacist, intentionally racist tactics and orders, but because, like you said, so many people are complicit. So many people do see them as other and less than and not worth dignity, not worth respect. So they other them to the point where they justify that it's okay to treat people as less than, to violate their civil rights, to strip away their dignity and their self-respect, and to do it in front of their children. Because they're brown and they speak Spanish, so of course they're bad. This is America. This is the America that we live in today. Not in theory, but in practice, in real time. And this has been the most uncomfortable, disgusting, and sickening I told you so in the history of my life.
For me, because I know the school district, one of the benefits, I guess, of being a radio personality is you get to go to all the schools and, they bring the DJs out from the radio station, all that sort of stuff. And so I know this school, and try to imagine what sort of trauma, not just the student in the middle of the story, but all the students watching, what sort of trauma that imposes on their little lives, that now they have to live in fear, having done nothing wrong. I have a target on my back, and I can imagine what that feels like. And again, my heart breaks for these children who are supposed to be family.